This is how I sew a flat felt seam. I'm going to start by positioning the pieces wrong sides together, and then I'm going to go ahead and throw in a couple pins to keep that in place. And then I can go ahead and stitch those two pieces together. I use a 3/4 inch seam allowance for all of my flat felt seams. It's definitely wider than what most people use, I think, but I found the wider seam allowance to be really helpful when you're sewing flat felt seams on top of flat felt seams. My machine doesn't have a numbered plate, so I just use a piece of masking tape as a seam guide. With that sewn, I'll go ahead and trim one of the seam allowances in half or just under half. And then I'll turn and press the seam allowance that I didn't trim over the shorter seam allowance, stopping the edge just inside the first line of stitching. And then I'm going to go ahead and press everything flat. Sometimes I don't even press it. I'll just sort of smooth the fabric and make sure everything's laying flat as I'm doing the second line of stitching. And then the last thing I need to do is stitch down that folded edge, and that will finish off the seam. Now, there's lots of different ways of sewing a flat felt seam, but the reason I like this method so much is it's easier for me to conceptualize the seam allowance, and also with all the other methods, you have to sew it at least 3 times. This, you just have to stitch the seam twice. Let me know if you have any questions.